Well, it's kind of crazy, and still to this day, most of the people in my life don't know it.
I met Joe over a year ago.
My name is Joe Frechette.
We both live in Long Island City, Queens, an area my friend dubbed OSOT, meaning other side of the tracks. Joe's a fellow upstate New York native, as well as a student. Main difference between Joe and I is that Joe's a seafaring man. He lives on a boat. No, he's not pirating on the high seas or circumnavigating the globe. Joe resides on the Newtown Creek, a 3.5-mile-long tributary that divides the westernmost part of Queens and Brooklyn. Step onto Joe's boat on a clear night, and the view of the Empire State Building, the One World Trade Center, and the whole New York City skyline rivals that of an apartment building costing several $1,000s a month. Joe pays slightly less. And by that I mean that Joe has no rent payment. He lives in New York City, rent-free. Like many of us, Joe dreamed of leaving his town and coming to take a bite out of the Big Apple.
Well, the biggest thing was it was always a dream. I grew up in Albany, grew up upstate New York, small place, kind of a dead-end town. Always wanted to live in New York City. I started down here living with a girl. Long story short, some events led to me realizing that I didn't want to be with that girl, didn't love that girl, had nowhere else to live. I knew a guy that was trying to sell me this boat for a year, and I didn't need it, but when I finally needed the boat, I asked him if it was still for sale, and he said to come on down, check out the scene, and that was July of 2016.
In the summer of 2016, Joe bought the boat and started the long process of cleaning and renovating his new purchase.
It was bad. It was horrible. When I first bought it, it was full of trash, full of water, full of mold. Like, I had nothing. Everything was in the apartment, you know what I mean? And I left, so I couldn't take anything with me. And you just start cleaning up little by little. I remember I used baby wipes because I could steal baby wipes from the nursing home I was working at. Like, unlimited supply of baby wipes. So I cleaned the whole inside, every inch with baby wipes.
Joe moved the boat a small distance down the river, near a patch of people also living on the water. The industrial parking lot and shoreline were, and still are, a hub for people living in RVs, vans, and boats. This section of Long Island City, OSOT, stands in stark comparison to the luxury apartment building, fusion restaurant, and kombucha crowd which thrive just a block or two away. The average monthly rent in this area falls somewhere around $1,500 to $4,000 a month, depending on a number of factors. While this is doable for a foreign diplomat or professional athlete, the prices make it extremely difficult to afford as a student or low-wage earner. For people like Joe, myself, and many others, there was a way out of this.
Might be a necessary thing to look at for people. Look around. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to live. Nobody can afford anything. And the earth is 70% water. And like 20% roads. So why not live on them shits?
True.
You know what I mean? Why do you have to live in an apartment? That's another thing I've learned.
Joe was going to school to be an RN when I met him. At the time, he planned that the nautical life was temporary.
Most of the people in my life don't know it. They don't know I live on the boat.
Yeah.
I don't bring it up. If they ask, I just tell them I'm in an apartment. But it was out of necessity, really, man. I can't say that I had anything that was, pushing me. I just had nowhere to go. This came up. It kind of was just happened, just fell into place. I don't believe in God. But if you need something, the universe will give it to you. So I think that's kind of what happened. I needed somewhere to go, and he gave me somewhere to go. And it was only for a couple months, dude. Like, this was not supposed to be 2 years, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
My whole plan was, I'm going to get in there, I'll regroup, save a couple bucks. I was working full-time at the time. I'll get an apartment. But just didn't happen like that, man. I was at a low point. You're drinking, fucking drugging, depressed. I had a good thing going. I went from a one-bedroom apartment in Astoria to a fucking sailboat, and the summer I moved in was the hottest summer in the history of the world. I think it ended up being dude, the summer of 16 ended up being the hottest summer ever. But I remember the first week it was so hot. It was July. I passed out like from working on the boat. I worked overnight at the time. I passed out during the middle of the day with no shirt on, like on an old cushion that was on the boat. And I woke up straight on fire, kid. Like just chest, face, neck, all just a blazing rash of just heat, dirty cushion rash. I don't know what it was, but that was like the introduction. And you know, you think you're at a low point, and then you got to get up and go to work and try to act like that everything's all right. And it was all right, you know what I mean? It's not like I was in the gutter, but it was a big swing.
2016 was hot, and any New Yorker without an air conditioner can tell you how a scorching day in the city feels. Time went on. July temperatures routinely hit 90 and above, with a 97-degree day on July 23rd. The ability to live rent-free in New York City comes at serious costs. Accommodations like power, plumbing, and propane, all central to an average morning routine, can become difficult to come by. For example, imagine your routine consists of waking up, brushing your teeth, and cooking breakfast. Pretty average. Now imagine keeping the same routine while it's 27 degrees. Your water jugs are frozen. And in order to stay warm last night, you finished off the last propane tank. Damn, that's a rough morning.
The hardest thing to get used to was like to develop a routine of where you could like shower and clean up, because I never really realized you go 4 or 5 days without showering and it depresses you. You know, like I never really had much. We were upstate guys, we camped, you know what I mean? I've shit in a bag before and threw it away, that was nothing. It was more of the trying to be a part of New York City. You know what I mean? Because there's a certain level you have to play at when you're in New York City. You can't, upstate you can lay back and do whatever and get by. But in New York City, you got to be at a certain level. You got to work at a certain level. You got to look like a certain level. You got to dress that way. You got to smell that way. So that was the hardest thing, was just keeping up the double life.
Now this I really experienced firsthand. New York City, home of Wall Street billionaires, real estate tycoons, and the fashion elite. A 10-minute walk through a New York City street can serve as a magnifying glass. A close look at American social classes. How they look, how they act, how they interact with each other. At the top of the financial hierarchy is the uber rich. You know them. Wearing a fresh pressed suit, carrying a new briefcase which holds folders of Goldman Sachs documents. And at the bottom, the homeless and undesirables. You know them as well. Tattered pants, dirty hands, sleeping on the street corner on the uber rich's old briefcase. But where does that put us? Are we homeless? Or just cheapskates with impeccable ingenuity? I prefer to think the latter, but maybe a little bit of both. As rent prices continue to rise in New York, this could become a reality for more and more people. It's not all bad. I've made great friends, just like Joe, and learned a lot along the way.
It just kind of taught me to water your lawn. I was always the type of guy to just, if something was broken, throw it out. If a relationship wasn't working, just to leave, But I just learned to, if you just water your lawn a little bit, your grass will be really green. So just put a little time in, put a little work in, and it'll be better. You can make it better, and you can kind of make something out of nothing.
As for Joe, he just graduated and will spend one more summer on the boat. After that, he plans to get an apartment in Manhattan, where rent is just slightly higher. Thank you for listening to On the Fringe. This episode is called No Rent New York. Check out the next episode, which explores how Vans started 2 thriving businesses. My name's Andy Mitchell, and tune in next time. Thank you.